Hey everybody, it's me again, Elegant Granny. I am back a little earlier than last night. Last night it was, about 2 or 3 hours later than right now. But I wanted to go ahead and get this thing going before my energy went down. So I tried to wait a little bit so the sun would slide over, so I had to help it out. But anyway, so yesterday, on day one of me doing a 2 week live challenge, invoked by a Perry sister of mine from when we were on Periscope together, Julie Jordan Scott. She has writing camps. So if anybody's interested, when I complete this, I will have her handle in my caption, and you can click on that and you can find her and you can see what she has to offer, how she helps help you unblock so that you can get your writing going. She's very great with that. So that's the reason why I'm always hanging around and looking to see what kind of prompts that she provides us during the day, because they're great. They keep your mind going. They help keep things unblocked, because sometimes that happens. We have so much going on and we tend to get a little blocked. So for those of you who don't remember me, or those who are new, I am Elegant Granny. I am your restoration strategist and creator and host of the podcast Proactive Eye. And as a restoration strategist, what I do is I support victims and survivors of abuse as they leave an abusive relationship and they want to heal. So that's what I help them with. So yesterday I talked about transitions, about me transitioning, and that's why I have not been here in a while. And I want to stretch that out a little bit today, because transitions are things when you are at one point in your life and you're moving on to another point in your life. And sometimes it causes you to have some delays. Sometimes it helps you progress. Sometimes it has you regress. Sometimes you can be a little stagnant, and a lot of that depends on your response to the reason that you're transitioning, the cause of the transitioning, and who all are involved in your transition. And so how I came to making a decision that I needed to come off social media for a while and get some things done is I had to recognize that I was transitioning. I had to recognize that I was no longer in this one place that I became comfortable with. And sometimes people don't realize when they are comfortable, even if something is good, you can still be too comfortable in it. Say, for instance, you are in a job, you're in a position, and you're making six figures. Sometimes even then, you're satisfied. You love how life is going and everything. Sometimes, because you are very capable of doing better than whatever you've become, you get very comfortable and you stop trying to move on. You stop trying to do even higher than where you get, because in your subconsciously, you like, okay, I made it here. I'm good. And life is going on. And there's time passes, and then all of a sudden you become dissatisfied again, not realizing the reason why sometimes you are having that. Let me try to get in the center a little bit. That you are transitioning, and sometimes your subconscious is trying to give you clues. Sometimes your aura, things in your space spiritually, are trying to let you know that it's time to move on. And sometimes we just don't. Our will is just to stay right there because it's very comfortable. And sometimes we just can't do that because transitioning can cause some discomfort. And so I had to recognize that I was transitioning and it was time to move on. I had been in the healthcare industry for 35 years. That's a long time. 35 years. And I've learned so much in that time. I've learned so much. In my earlier years, in my first decade, everything was still fresh and new. I was aware of some things because, a lot of my family members, they had worked in healthcare as well. So I wasn't that naive, but learning how to get my hands in the dirt, so to speak, and learning different things because working in healthcare, nursing, it's just not something you do like physically. It's something that you do mentally. It is something that you do emotionally. It is something that you do spiritually. And it's definitely things that you do energetically. And I had to learn all of that. And I learned there were some differences between the way I was taught and I was mentored over 30 years ago as compared to those who are in nursing now. And it is so different. They do not get the same training or mentoring that I did. The training and the mentoring that I received, I remember we were treated as regular nurses, everybody. It didn't matter if you were RN, whether you had a diploma, if you had a degree, a 2-year degree, associates, if you were LPN, CNA, it didn't matter. Everybody was nurse because of the extensive training that you received. And the training never ends. It's the way that the CNAs and the LPNs and everybody coming out now, it's like, what happened? But I had to recognize I was transitioning and it took me back. And this is the reason why I'm talking about that. Because I transitioned a lot in the 35 years of training because there was so much to learn, so much to do. And I realized by year 25, which is during the second decade, I realized that I have picked up so many different skills. I had learned so many different things, and I was able to apply it and in other areas, not just healthcare, but in business and in education. And I decided that when I leave nursing, because I decided then that I was going to go another 5 to 10 years and I was going to do a second career. So I had been going back and forth between education and healthcare for a while. And sometimes I was doing both at the same time. And that's when I realized, hey, I have a lot more going on than I realized. Because I picked up so many things and I was more flexible because of the things that I picked up. Places and things that people did not want to do. Some of the jobs in the healthcare that people did not want to do, I chose to go ahead and do it. And I discovered very quickly that I was the most flexible person. I could adapt to change quicker. I could adapt to the environment. It didn't matter where they placed me. I could just adapt just like that. And whenever there was a crisis, I was able to come right on in. Most of them weren't. They were panic. And I wouldn't panic. I knew what to do because I had been trained everywhere in every department, and I made sure that I got the proper training. I would always ask for more because I've always been that type of person. I can never learn enough. And so I had to recognize that I was transitioning, and I realized that I was actually more valuable than I thought. And hey, how you doing? Long time no see. And so I realized that I was a lot more valuable than I realized. So now, speeding up to 35 years in healthcare, I'm like, you know what? There is so much more to me. So that's when I decided to do something business wise. And so I created I created Elegant Granny. Hey, Dr. Tammy, how you doing? So yeah, this was like in about year 25, I decided. So yeah, I decided to do that. And that's how I got started. Well, that was one of the ways I got started. But I decided I need to do more because I have all these skills. There's no point in having all these skills and I'm not doing anything with them. So what I learned is, you know, I'm a lot more flexible. I'm a lot more valuable. There's more to me than meets the eye. There's more than I ever realized that I can do. Hey, I can use these skills in different ways because in healthcare, I learned how to be a mediator. I learned how to be a negotiator. I learned how to, your discernment really kicks in. I mean, you develop that. You develop your intuition. You develop different spiritual gifts and talents that subconsciously you may have known that you had these gifts, and sometimes some of them you really didn't realize that you had until you start working them. And intuitively, sometimes in a crisis, you know, they kick in, and then that's when you realize, hey, I can do such and such. So 35 years, I decided 35 years was enough. So I left healthcare last year, but I'm still bringing it with me. I still bring it with Elegant Granny because you can't just get all that value and not do anything with it. So that's one of the things that I do with Elegant Granny is I provide some structure of healthcare with what I do with victims and survivors of abuse by providing patience, by providing a safe space so they can feel safe to be safe, so they can feel good about themselves to start thinking, so they can unblock some things because of the traumas they have experienced. Sometimes that's another live. I'll probably talk about that on another live. I was going to say that sometimes those of us as supporters of these people, we forget that these people are dealing with trauma or have dealt with trauma, and we forget that there is so much fear, so much anger, so much disappointment, and we want to see them in a certain place like right now. And all we can think about them is heal this so you can move here, that we forget that they need to work through this other stuff first. And we forget patience is a part of that. We forget everybody doesn't wake up at the same time. You can have 5 or 6 brothers and sisters in one house. Everybody is to wake up at 6 a.m. There's always going to be somebody who wakes up first, and there's always going to be someone who wakes up last. Every time. Nobody wakes up at the exact same time. So that's another thing that I learned in healthcare. You've got to be patient with them and with yourself. Don't beat yourself up when you feel like you didn't do enough or you forgot to do something, because that's part of transition. You transition and you you keep evolving and you keep growing. And as you evolve, that's a transition in itself. So how I implemented what I learned, how I implemented everything that I learned in those 35 years with patience with myself. I had to be very patient with myself because I was always the child. I was the overachiever. I was the overachiever. And I think some of that came with my order of birth because I am the eldest girl. And my father had 4 girls. My mom has only 3 of us, but I'm the eldest either way. And I'm the eldest grandchild on my mother's side of 20. And I helped a lot with them growing up, plus some other cousins, plus some friends' children's, plus some of the neighbors' children. And so as the eldest one, some of the other elder children, we were responsible for the younger children, making sure that they had everything that they needed. When we come home from school, I would always be the one who came home first, make sure everybody got out of their school clothes, got into the play clothes, had their snack, did their chores, did their homework. I had to look through everybody's stuff, and if the teacher sent home notes and everything, I had to make sure all of that was together. So I gained a lot of organizational management skills as a child, and I decided to do something with that business-wise. So that added to Elegant Granny because I had the healthcare, I had the organizational management, and that is my specialty from school. I have a master's in business administration, and my specialization is in organizational management. Education, I taught private school for over 20 years. And so now I'm transitioning again, even in Elegant Granny. Elegant Granny I started in 2013. So I think this is it is the 9th year, and Elegant Granny will be 10 in January. And she's transitioning again in this first decade. She is transitioning again, where she is taking everything from healthcare, everything from education, and everything from business skills, and putting them all together. So Elegant Granny will change. I'm not gonna just do restoration strategies anymore. I'm not just working with victims and survivors. I will now also include supporters, those who want to help the victims and survivors, because I run into so many people, and it's such a great need, no matter whether it's here in my town or whether I travel. A lot of people want to support, they don't know how, and they say they're afraid of making things worse. And some of them said they do help, and it seems like some things they say and some things they do, they feel like they're hurting that person more. So I am developing curriculum. I'm taking my education skills and I am developing curriculum and study guides and different things to be mindful of when you are supporting a loved one or a coworker or somebody you just see in the street. What are some common basic things that you can do so that you can feel like you're not putting them in harm's way any further, so that you can feel like you're helping and not hurting, because that's a big win, to feel like you're helping and not hurting. Nobody wants to hurt anybody any further when they're trying to help them. So that's all I wanted to come on here and talk about today. Is I wanted to expound on transitioning a little bit more, so now you know how Elegant Granny is transitioning. And I will be celebrating my 10th year as EG in January. I haven't worked out all the kinks on it yet, but yeah, y'all just keep an ear out because I will be back. So this is Elegant Granny signing off. I am your restoration strategist and creator and host of the Proactive Eye podcast. You can find the podcast through my profile. You can find Proactive Eye there. You can click the link on there. And you can listen to some of the episodes that I have on there. I'm going to be starting that back up because I took a sabbatical from that too. I'm going to be starting that back up again by the end of this month. So I'm very excited to get back to that. I've made a lot of transitions at one time before I leave. One of the other transitions that I experienced is relocating. I have relocated. So I'm not in the same house that I was in anymore. I relocated and I'm kind of excited because this is temporary home shelter for me right now. I will be relocating again. I think I'll stay here maybe like 3 years, 5 at the most. Who knows? But anyway, it's just the place that I am now. I figured during this transition, I needed to be like in a dwelling place. Remember in the Bible where King David, before he became king over the children of Israel, he ended up in a cave dwelling. And he was there for a good while before the current king left. He went through a cave dwelling. And if you don't remember what happened, going back there because I'm getting ready to get off and just look up King David and what happened between him and King Saul and why he had to go through what he went through. And everything he went through helped prepare him for his leadership role. It really did, even from, childhood. So yeah, relocating, that was part of my transition. Retiring from healthcare and going from the private sector of education to the public sector of education. That was another transition. See, I told you I went through so many transitions at one time. Elegant Granny is about to be 10 years old in January. That's another thing. That's another decade. That is a decade for her. So yeah, and so we're doing things a little bit differently next year on her 10th birthday. So yeah, so I'm getting ready to sign off. I've completed day 2. I will be back tomorrow with day 3, and I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to talk about just yet, but we'll find out when I get here. So you guys have a lovely evening. It was great seeing you. Dr. Tammy, always good to see you. Lillian, thank you. You have always been in my corner. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. So I will talk to you all later. See you. Bye.